Hi there, I'm Julene Jackson.
And I'm Debbie Jansen.
And I'm sticking to the truth.
Yes, we are sticking to the truth today, aren't we, Julene?
We are two motor-mouth mamas willing to discuss current events with honesty and boldness.
We are truth warriors. No lie is too big and no deception too small.
We are sticking to the truth.
Are you sticking to the truth? I hope our listeners are sticking to the truth today, Julene. There are so many lies out there that you have to discover what they are and beat them down, but I hope they're sticking to the truth. So what is your 60-second tip for today?
Woo! Well, we are right in the season of elections here. We are 1 week away from a presidential election, and it seems like someone has turned the dial up to a 10, right? There's just a lot of incendiary and insulting things being said and done right now. The candidates are, traipsing all over the country. President Trump was just in Madison Square Garden in New York City on Sunday. Vice President Harris spoke on the ellipse right next to the White House last night. And I just before I went to bed, I saw on the news, they said first it was 20,000 people, then 40,000, then maybe 75,000. So you know how the numbers are kind of getting inflated at this point. And so, I think the thought of your candidate not winning because just, some of it's just been ratcheted up, the dialogue back and forth, is causing a lot of people to feel anxious. And the thought came to me, Julene, your freedom comes from God, not government, not Washington, D.C., not the person in the White House. My freedom, my answers, my deliverance, my solution comes from above. And knowing that, everything's going to be okay. He is who I vote for every single day by the way I live my life,
Yes.
He's my leader. He's my Lord. He's my, deliverer. He's my savior. So regardless of how the election turns out, we're going to be okay, Deb.
Right. Well, we're in sync today, honey. Our tips are about the same. I love it. I love it. My tip for today is to believe in the future. No matter what happens next week or between now and Christmas, we will survive. God has promised, like you said, God has promised to take care of us. And people can scare you into depression. And then you find out after you've been in depression for a while that the circumstances weren't as bad as you thought they would be. And so then you've wasted all that time being depressed. So my tip for today is let's don't get depressed about this. Let's don't get anxious or worried or feel like, the world's going to end in 2 weeks. It's not. Pray, take a walk, enjoy the sunset, tickle a child, and remember that life will go on. Be encouraged and trust in God to take care of you. That is, you and I are just right in sync with that. And I know right now it feels like that our tips aren't valid because both groups, kind of like you talked, both groups have just blown up the rhetoric and it has become terrifying. I listened to Harris's speech last night. And I have listened to some of her interviews, and it's scary. She makes you think that next week after the election, we are immediately going to be slaves and taken off to internment camps somewhere. And that's just not going to happen. And you know how I know that? Because of you, Julene. Thank you so much. Because Julene teaches these wonderful classes on Moms for America. And I would encourage anybody, even guys, because Al teaches with you, and Ron will come and listen to those classes with me because it's like taking a college course on our country. We're studying the history. We're studying the Constitution. We're studying what our forefathers did, how we're protected in this country from a dictator. And I just love the information you've given me. And so I was thinking about this after her speech, and I was just kind of feeling, oh my goodness, she makes it seem so horrible. And it hit. She can't do all of this that she's talking about doing. And Trump can't go out there and be a dictator on day one because we have the Senate, the House, the Supreme Court, we have the Constitution, we have laws that are all checking on them. And what is the word that you use that is our check on this not becoming like other countries? Am I right?
Yes, yes. I mean, some of them are just making false promises that they can't back up because they don't have the authority to, you know? I mean, it's the legislative branch is who sets policy and makes laws, right? You can be directed from the White House, but Congress holds the purse strings for, you know, these promises to be enacted, right? And so, you know, everyone is talking a really good talk right now, Deb.
Yeah, they are. And the thing that I noticed, it's depressing. I have to kind of search for my words on this because I don't want to agree with either party on the upward trend of let's call everybody horrible and we're all just going to die in 2 weeks. I don't like that. I want to find hope. And so it was depressing to listen to Hillary Clinton accuse Trump of attempting to reenact the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. In her sit down with CNN host Caitlin Collins, she called Trump a fascist and a Nazi. And that has continued. That's what the Democrats are doing. They're just painting him as this awful person that's going to come in and be a dictator and just take our children and destroy democracy and kill old people and destroy our economy and then send the military to arrest everyone. I just don't believe it. So I asked myself a question. Do I believe that Kamala will do that? And when I asked myself that question, I thought, no, I don't. But the problem with the rhetoric is even though we have stop guards and things in place to keep these high-powered officials from doing bad stuff, right now the rhetoric is speaking not to people like me and you. It's speaking to dysfunctional people who don't see things clearly, who don't try to find the truth, and then they go out and they do something horrible to one candidate or the other. So lying for the sake of creating enough fear so someone acts on that fear, it's going to bring about horrible consequences. Am I right?
So I think there's a level of responsibility that people that hold, you know, elected office or are running at that level need to assume. You know, they can't take advantage of maybe the most gullible people in the electorate that actually, you know, believe that what they see on TV or, you know, read in the newspaper is the gospel truth, right? And so we know that who's the father of all lies? It's Satan. Like it's his like favorite tool in his toolbox, right? I don't know.
Yep.
It's his screwdriver, it's his hammer. So it's his go-to tool is to use lying, cheating, slandering, deception.
Right.
And so, you know, we have to be careful that we don't prey upon people and use things that could possibly, you know, get them so riled up that they might
Right.
do something really crazy, like an assassination attempt even. I mean, that's a little extreme, but
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you totally. But I think part of that conversation is we need to think about how do you talk to other people? Okay. You and I, when we talk, we're always talking substance and attitude and the purpose of what we want to do and how we're going to fix that or what we could do as a community or a country to fix that. And sometimes people in power go for fear tactics. They think that if they can make you afraid enough, you will do exactly what they said, which was what you were saying. But on the same plane here, we have to think about if you know someone else is lying or someone else is doing something they shouldn't do, you have to speak to that. So how do you do it? For me, I look at what they're doing and I don't mind a person saying, well, that person has flip-flopped or that person is lying and here's the truth about it. I can handle that. What I don't like is when they are trying to paint the other picture as, or the other person in a really bad picture, so bad that we have to destroy that other person. Am I making sense here?
oh yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think I've flip-flopped in life. I want to, think it's fair that we evolve, right? What I thought at age 25 is maybe not what I think
Yeah,
at
yeah,
55, right? We change, we grow, we might, see things in a different light. But that's completely different from someone that takes something out of context and as a means to paint someone in a bad light. Now, I think of the comedian that spoke this Sunday at Madison Square Garden
yeah.
for Trump. Now, I think there was like 30 speakers at that rally. It must have gone on for like 4 hours, seriously. But I think this comedian said something about Puerto Rico was a floating island of garbage. And I think he was implying that the trash pickup has been bad, right?
Yeah.
But Kamala's people heard that and took it out of context to make Donald Trump appear like he's racist, that he thinks Puerto Ricans are garbage, And so I think that's lying because I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
and I think maybe that comedian, I think he talked about blacks and Latinos and Jewish. I mean, he was going down the line, talking trash about everyone. But, when your enemy takes something out of context to make you appear something that you're not, I think that's a form of lying as well, right? So
Yeah.
you need to
Yes.
know the whole story, right, in life.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And part of the problem is when you call someone bad all the time without sharing why they would be better or why you would be better at solving the problem. You have to get down to those facts. If you don't get down to the facts, then you're just going to continue to have a problem, right?
Right. Well,
So,
you're
go
kind
ahead.
you're kind of talking past each other, right? You're not really trying to have a civil conversation. You're trying to present the other side in the worst light possible.
Yeah, and I think there's good and bad in all of us. And I liked the way that Trump he did say that. He said there were things that he did like about Kamala. Well, that makes me feel like okay, he's trying to look at the facts and not just calling her bad on the time. Um, when
Well,
you and I,
what did he say he liked about her?
I'm trying to remember, I think it was that she was always smiling. And he thought that was nice. And
That's
a lot of
fair.
people have made fun about her cackle and stuff. And
Yeah.
it is a little, but he took that as a good thing. So, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. At least he's seeing the whole person,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah.
when you and I are talking, I like to share how I would solve a problem, but I keep my mouth shut if I don't know enough facts to share my beliefs or solve the problem, because inside I'm trying to work on it. Okay, give me more, Julene. Give me more, Julene.
Yeah.
So what I want to take to another level is with my friends. How do I talk with my friends? If politicians are talking this way, how am I talking with my friends? Well, I don't let them get away with lies.
Mm-hmm.
If my friends or family say something that I know is not true, compassion may make me want to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But if the confrontation would be too much for them, but I'm certainly not going to accept a lie or a misrepresentation. And that's why we do this podcast, right, Julie?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our goal is to get our listeners to think, to challenge, to research, to make sure they're sticking to the truth, right?
This is true. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a tricky balance, right? Especially with people that we like. Maybe we just have a difference of opinion, Deb. Maybe it's not so much you're lying and I have to somehow correct you. Maybe they just view the world differently than I do. And so, that's where I think you have to give people some grace, right?
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I don't ever look at people as I have to force them to think like me, because
Right.
God made us all different, right?
Right.
And there are things that you and I have talked about that we're different on, but we can still be best friends and we can still do things like this together because we understand that the other person has a right to an opinion. Just because I like vanilla ice cream and you like chocolate does not mean that we can't be friends. We can go to the ice cream store and I can eat vanilla and you can eat chocolate, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, clearly when it comes to, like, I like this movie, or I thought that was the dumbest movie ever and they thought it was the greatest. There's a difference between that and, I believe that the life of the unborn should be protected. And, versus someone that thinks, well, it's okay to abort a baby up to, the first trimester, then we're going to have some dialogue. Right. And
Right.
so I do think, that's what are you rooted in? Like what principles, what is your mooring, what anchors you, what is your North Star? And we talked about this, I base my views on what God says, like, in the Bible. I'm one of those girls. So, I mean, I clearly know when you're talking to someone that, maybe is an atheist or doesn't, only goes to church once a year, So the conversation is there's going to be a little bit more give and take, it's not going to be like,
Yeah. I agree 100%. You have to be the convincer. If you want to talk to somebody that disagrees with you, then have your facts together and convince them. You don't want to be the aggressor. So if we go back to the voting, I believe when you're trying to gain votes, whether it's in your Sunday school class or at your school or as president of the United States, you debate, you share your views, you put it out there. If you want to win a debate or just convince a friend that the mortgage rates are too high, you can't cross a line and make accusations that ruin their lives and yours. You must think of the future and whether or not that person you're talking to is going to survive your attacks. If someone says, I'm a big mouth fat woman who doesn't know what she's talking about, I'm probably going to survive that. I'll hate hearing that someone doesn't like me, but life will go on and I can be okay with myself and my real friends. But if someone says they dream about killing me or blowing up my home, if they think I'm so awful that they want to see me behind bars, then I'm wondering if they need counseling and a dose of personal reality. especially if I check with my friends and they say I'm okay. So I pray for them, but at the very least, I'll make sure they can't hurt me physically, and I'll label that friendship toxic and I'll let it go. A very good way to handle that is to pray for discernment. I believe God can give us the ability to discern truth from lies. What do you think, Julene?
Well, I think that's probably one of his greatest gifts, right? That he didn't leave us alone down here on earth, right? He sent us a beautiful gift, the gift of his Holy Spirit to be with us. And, I think if you have that, I teach my children, if you have the Holy Spirit with you, you will always be at the advantage in the world, because there's so many forces of good and evil, dark and light, and it can be really confusing, right? So
Right.
when you have the Spirit to let you know when something is dangerous or is warning you, or you just don't have a good feeling, wow, that is a beautiful gift. That's a beautiful gift, and I think that's one of the many blessings of having God in your life is
Right.
your discernment is is high.
Right, right. And do you believe that God has called us to be persuaders and not instigators?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, look at him. He was a persuader. He didn't shame or force or coerce people into anything. And he led by example. So where much is given, much is required. I mean, he showed us the way, and that's I think a persuader actually has to do more work, because they have to be more patient and more gentle and more forgiving, and they have to rein in their natural woman man tendencies to want to lash out and give it to someone who's misrepresenting something about you, right?
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
takes a
yeah,
real discipline, to
yeah,
bring
yeah. It
yourself
does.
under control. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not seeing we're not seeing a lot of that these days, certainly amongst the candidates.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It takes a lot more to gather all the facts that you need to put it together
Yeah,
and to give an honest opinion of what's going on. You
yeah,
can't just spew that out of your mouth.
yeah,
That comes from doing research and then praying about it and thinking about it and taking a walk and letting it mull over in your head. And then you go, oh, yeah, this is where the foot meets the road here on this particular fact or this thing that they're talking about.
yeah.
So I think what we're saying to our listeners today is let's don't get overly worried or anxious. God has all of this in his hands, right? And he's going to protect us and take care of us, and we're going to go forward. There'll be a lot of work to do no matter who wins.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to do to get this country on its feet again. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I mean, gosh, by the sweat of our brow, we left the Garden of Eden, and God knew that we were going to have to roll up our sleeves and work and compromise and, make mistakes and go back and have redos and say, I'm sorry, and try and be better. And so, of course, and it's going to take like all of us doing our part, right? That's the ideal. But I can't control everybody, Debbie, but I can control me, right? As for me and my
Good
house,
point. Good point.
I'm going to give it my best, or I'm going to try each day. And believe me, I fail every day, and I get on my knees and I ask God to help me be better the next day, and I do think that, as I remember, that look, we are all spiritual beings having a mortal experience. We are all spiritual beings having a mortal experience. And some of us, might be a little bit further along on the path than others. And we might have to, see where we can show some grace and help out. And there might be times when I have to, accept some counsel and correction and make some changes. And so, wherever we are on that road, sometimes we speed ahead, sometimes we fall back. If we can just remember that we all came from the same being, right? And we're all
Right.
spiritual beings having a mortal experience. We're trying to figure it out. Some people are figuring it out better than others. I try and attach myself to those that are figuring it out better, because then they raise my game. And I mean, Deb, that's how I consider our friendship. I just
Oh, me
love
too.
your
Me too.
insights.
You've raised me a lot, babe.
And so, where I'm weak, you're strong. And so, we help each other. And so we want to find people that can fill in some of our holes or gaps of understanding. And I think that
Right.
takes a humble person that wants to find truth. Just doesn't always want to be right, and is not always thinking about all glory to me and more power and more fame. But like I want to like have a life of meaning and purpose. I want to help other people. I want to accept help that other people might be able to give me. I don't know. I find
I'm with you. I'm with you right there. I think a life without purpose is not a good life. We need purpose, and I think our purpose should be to find the truth. And that's why we started this podcast. We're sticking to the truth, because when you have the truth about any situation, your life is better. If you're anxious about this election, look for the truth in it. And when you find the truth, you'll vote for the right person. When you find the truth, you'll be kinder to other people. When you find the truth, and it just goes on and on and on, and elevates your life to a place to where you're not depressed or anxious or mad or crying all the time or seeing the future life as bad. Find that truth. I used to play a game with my kids, and you've told me how you do devotions with yours every morning to find the truth. My game was we never listened to the radio in the car. What we did was we played the what if game. Okay, guys, you go into school this morning and your best friend is having a hard day and he slams the door on his locker and he calls you a bad name and walks away. What are you going to do? And in their responses, I led them to find out what the truth might be, even in that horrible situation. And when you find the truth, usually it's going to require you to have compassion, to follow certain rules, to be good to other people. And all of that's going to make your life better, right?
Exactly. I mean, when you're grounded in truth, people could say the most asinine, foolish things, and you still can remain even keel. It doesn't set you off because, hey, you recognize it for what it is.
Right, right. Well, we're out of time today, guys. So I want to thank you for being with us today. Please subscribe to this podcast and join us again when we discuss fresh topics. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing me, Debbie, at debbiejansen.com. If you're discouraged, pick up a copy of my book, Praying for America and the Army of God. It's packed with inspiration and hope. Or you can try Minutes of Faith, which is a short little devotional that I know you'll love. Now, before we leave, next week, go vote. Everybody go vote. Vote your faith, vote your convictions, but go vote. And remember this, no matter how it turns out, God is with us and we're going to be okay. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
This is Julene Jackson, and I'm sticking to the truth. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.